Did you say clever, Willie? It's Helen. I'm in a story conference, Helen, and we're speaking tonight at supper time. Why are you calling at lunch? Why are you calling at lunch for? Hostile. Hostile. Never argue with your wife about hostility when she's a certified Freudian. It's just they're driving me crazy with stupid notions in this story conference. What's up? Nothing, probably, except the Morgenstern's out of print. I've checked with Doubledays, too. You sounded kind of like it might be important, so I'm just letting you know Jason will have to be satisfied with his very fitting 10-speed machine. Not important, I said. Sandy Sterling was smiling from the deep end, straight at me. Thanks, though, anyway. I was about to hang up, and then I said, well, as long as you've gone this far, call Argosy on 59th Street. They specialize in out-of-print stuff. Argosy, 59th. Got it. Talk to you at supper. She hung up. Without saying, no starlets now. Every call she ends with that, and now she doesn't. Could I have given it away by something in my tone? Helen's very spooky about that, being a shrink and all. Guilt, like pudding, began bubbling on the back burner. I went back to my lounge chair. Alone. Sandy Sterling swam a few laps. I picked up my New York Times. A certain amount of sexual tension in the vicinity. Done swimming? She asks. I put my paper down. She was by the edge of the pool now, nearest my chair. I nod, staring at her. Which Zanuck? Dick or Darryl? It was my wife, I said, emphasis on the last word. Didn't faze her. She got out and lay down in the next chair. Top-heavy, but golden. If you like them that way, you had to like Sandy Sterling. I like them that way. You're out here on the Levin, aren't you? Stepford Wives? I'm doing the screenplay. I really loved that book. That's like my favorite book in all the world. I'd really love to be in a picture like that, written by you. I'll do anything for a shot at that. So there it was. She was putting it right out there, on the line. Naturally, I set her straight, fast. Listen, I said, I don't do things like that. If I did, I would, because you're gorgeous. That goes without saying, and I wish you joy, but life's too complicated without that kind of thing going on. That's what I thought I was going to say. But then I figured, hey, wait a minute. What law is there that says you have to be the token Puritan of the movie business? I've worked with people who keep card files on this kind of thing. True, asked Joyce Haber. Have you acted a lot in features? I heard myself asking. Now you know I was really passionate to know the answer to that one. Nothing that really enlarged my boundaries, you know what I mean? Mr. Goldman? I looked up. It was the assistant lifeguard. For you again. He handed me the phone. Willie? Just the sound of my wife's voice sent sheer blind misgivings through each and every bit of me. Yes, Helen. You sound funny. What is it, Helen? Nothing, but it can't be nothing or you wouldn't have called me. What's the matter, Willie? Nothing is the matter. I was trying to be logical. You did, after all, place the call. I was merely trying to ascertain why. I can be pretty distant when I put my mind to it. You're hiding something. Nothing drives me crazier than when Helen does that. Because, see, with this horrible psychiatrist background of hers, she only accuses me of hiding things from her when I'm hiding things from her. Helen, I'm in the middle of a story conference now. Just get on with it. So there it was again. I was lying to my wife about another woman, and the other woman knew it. Sandy Sterling, in the next chair, smiled dead into my eyes. Argosy doesn't have the book. Nobody has the book. Goodbye, Willie. She hung up. Wife again? I nodded, put the phone on the table by my lounge chair. You sure talk to each other a lot. I know, I told her. It's murder trying to get any writing done. I guess she smiled. There was no way I could stop my heart from pounding. Chapter 1. The Bride, my father said. I must have jerked around or something because she said, huh? I began. I thought. Nothing, I said finally. Easy, she said, and she gave me a really sweet smile. She dropped her hand over mine for just a second, very gentle and reassuring. I wondered, was it possible she was understanding, too? Gorgeous and understanding? Was that legal? Helen wasn't ever understanding. She was always saying she was. I understand why you're saying that, Willie. But she secretly was ferreting out my neuroses. No, I guess she was understanding. What she wasn't was sympathetic. And of course she wasn't gorgeous, too. Skinny, yes. Brilliant, yes. I met my wife in graduate school, I said to Sandy Sterling. She was getting her Ph.D. Sandy Sterling was having a little trouble with my train of thought. We were just kids. How old are you? You want my real age or my baseball age? I really laughed then. Gorgeous and understanding and funny. Fencing, fighting, torture, my father said. Love, hate, revenge, giants, beasts of all natures and descriptions, truths, passion, miracles. It was 12:35 and I said, one phone call, okay? Okay. New York City information, I said into the receiver, and when I was through, I said, could you give me the names of some 4th Avenue bookshops, please? There must be 20 of them. 4th Avenue is the used and out-of-print book center of the English-speaking chapter of the civilized world. While the operator looked, I turned to the creature on the next lounge and said, my kid's 10 today. I'd kind of like for him to have this book from me, a present. It won't take a sec. Swing, Sandy Sterling said. I list one bookstore called the 4th Avenue Bookshop, the operator said, and she gave me the number. Can't you give me any of the others? They're all down there in a clump. If you will give me the names, I can help you, the operator said, speaking bell talk. This one will do, I said, and I got the hotel operator to ring through for me. Listen, I'm calling from Los Angeles, I said, and I need The Princess Bride by S. Morgenstern. Nope, sorry, the guy said, and before I could say, well, could you give me the names of the other stores down there, he hung up. Give me that number back, please, I said to the hotel operator, and when the guy was on the line again, I said, this is your Los Angeles correspondent. Don't hang up so fast this time. I ain't got it, mister. I understand that. What I'd like is, since I'm in California, could you give me the names and numbers of some of the other stores down there? They might have it, and there aren't exactly an abundance of New York Yellow Pages drifting around out there. They don't help me, I don't help them, he hung up again. I sat there with the receiver in my hand. What's this special book? Sandy Sterling asked. Not important, I said, and hung up. Then I said, yes, it is, and picked up the receiver again, eventually got my publishing house in New York, Harcourt Brace Janovich, and after a few more eventualities, my editor's secretary read me off the names and numbers of every bookstore in the 4th Avenue area. Hunters, my father was saying now, bad men, good men, beautifulest ladies. He was camped in my cranium, hunched over, bald and squinting, trying to read, trying to please, trying to keep his son alive and the wolves away. It was 1:10 before I had the list completed and rang off from the secretary. Then I started with the bookstores. Listen, I'm calling from Los Angeles on the Morgenstern book, The Princess Bride, and sorry, busy signal, not for years. Another busy. 1:35, Sandy swimming. Getting a little angry, too. She must have thought I was putting her on. I wasn't, but it sure looked that way. Sorry, had a copy in December. No soap, sorry. This is a recorded announcement. The number you have dialed is not in working order. Please hang up and... Nope. Sandy really upset now, glaring, gathering debris. Who reads Morgenstern today? Sandy going, gorgeous, gone. Bye, Sandy. Sorry, Sandy. Sorry, we're closing. 1:55 now, 4:55 in New York. Panic in Los Angeles. Busy. No answer. No answer. Florinese I got, I think, somewhere in the back. I sat up in my lounge chair. His accent was thick. I need the English translation. You don't get much call from Morgenstern nowadays. I don't know any more what I got in the back there. You come in tomorrow, you look around. I'm in California, I said. Meshuggah, he said. It would mean just a great deal to me if you'd look. You gonna hold on while I do it? I'm not gonna pay for this call. Take your time, I said. He took 17 minutes. I just hung on, listening. Every so often, I'd hear a footstep or a crash of books or a grunt. Finally, well, I got the Flornese like I thought. So close. But not the English, I said. And suddenly he's yelling at me. What, are you crazy? I break my back and he says I haven't got it. Yes, I got it. I got it right here. And believe me, it's going to cost a pretty penny. Great, really, no kidding. Now listen, here's what you do. Get yourself a cab and tell him to take the book straight up to Park and Mr. California Mashugana, you listen now. It's coming up a blizzard and I'm going no place and neither of these books without money. $6.50 on the barrel each. You want the English? You got to take the Florence. I close at 6. These books don't leave my premises without $13 changing hands. Don't move, I said, hanging up. And who do you call when it's after hours and Christmas on the horizon? Only your lawyer. Charlie, I said when I got him. Please do me this. Go to 4th Avenue, Abramowitz's. Give him $13 for 2 books, taxi up to my house, and tell the doorman to take them to my apartment. And yes, I know it's snowing. What do you say? That is such a bizarre request, I have to agree to do it. I called Abramowitz yet again. My lawyer is hot on the trail. No checks, Abramowitz said. You're all heart. I hung up and started figuring. More or less 120 minutes long distance at $1.35 per first 3 minutes, plus 13 for the books, plus probably 10 for Charlie's taxi, plus probably 60 for his time, came to 250 maybe. All for my Jason to have the Morgenstern. I leaned back and closed my eyes. 250, not to mention 2 solid hours of torment and anguish, and let's not forget Sandy Sterling. A steal. They called me at 7:30. I was in my suite. He loves the bike, Helen said. He's practically out of control. Fabbo, I said. And your books came. What books? I said. Chevalier was never more casual. Chevalier? Chevalier? How do you pronounce that? Hold on, I gotta look up a word. Chevalier. Pronunciation. Chevalier. Chevalier. Okay. Where was I? Chevalier. Chevalier was never more casual. The Princess Bride. In various languages, one of them, fortunately, English. Well, that's nice, I said, still loose. I practically forgot I asked to have them sent. How'd they get here? I called my editor's secretary and had her scrounge up a couple copies. Maybe they had them at Harcourt. Who knows? They did have copies at Harcourt. Can you buy that? I'll get to why in the next pages, probably. Give me the kid. Hi, he said a second later. Listen, Jason, I told him. We thought about giving you a bike for your birthday, but we decided against it. Boy, are you wrong. I got one already. Jason has inherited his mother's total lack of humor. I don't know, maybe he's funny and I'm not. We just don't laugh much together is all I can say for sure. My son Jason is this incredible-looking kid. Paint him yellow, he'd mop up for the school sumo team. A blimp. All the time stuff in his face. I watch my weight and old Helen is only visible full front. Plus on top of which she is this leading child shrink in Manhattan, and our kid can roll faster than he can walk. He's expressing himself through food, Helen always says. His anxieties. When he feels ready to cope, he'll slim down. Hey, Jason, Mom tells me this book arrived today, the princess thing. I'd sure like it if maybe you'd give it a read while I'm gone. I loved it when I was a kid, and I'm kind of interested in your reaction, too. Do I have to love it, too? He was his mother's son, all right. Jason, no. Just the truth, exactly what you think. I miss you, Big Shot, and I'll talk to you on your birthday. Boy, are you wrong. Today is my birthday. We bantered a bit more, long past when there was much to say. Then I did the same with my spouse, and hung up, promising to return by the end of 1 week. It took 2. Conferences dragged, producers got inspirations that had to carefully get shot down, directors needed their egos soothed. Anyway, I was longer than anticipated in sunny California. Finally, though, I was allowed to return to the care and safety of the family. So I quick buzzed to LA airport before anybody's mind changed. I got there early, which I always do when I come back, because I had to load up my pockets with doodads and such for Jason. Every time I get home from a trip, he runs, waddles to me, hollering, let me see the pockets. And then he goes through all my pockets, taking out his graft. And once the loot is totaled, he gives me a nice hug. Isn't it awful what we'll do in this world to feel wanted? Let me see the pockets, Jason shouted, moving to me across the foyer. It was a supper-time Thursday, and while he went through his ritual, Helen emerged from the library and kissed my cheek, going, what a dashing-looking fellow I have, which is also ritual, and laden with gifts. Jason kind of hugged me and waddled off to his room. Angelica's just getting dinner on, Helen said. You couldn't have timed it better. Angelica? Helen put her finger to her lips and whispered, it's her 3rd day on, but I think she may be a treasure. I whispered back, what was wrong with the treasure we had when I left? She'd only been with us a week then. She proved a disappointment, Helen said. That was all. Helen is this brilliant lady. Junior Phi Beta in college, every academic honor conceivable, really an intellect of startling breadth and accomplishment, only she can't keep a maid. First, I guess she feels guilty having anybody, since most of the anybodies available nowadays are Black or Spanish, and Helen is ultra super liberal. Second, she's so efficient she scares them. She can do everything better than they can, and she knows it, and she knows they know it. Third, once she's got them panicked, she tries to explain, being an analyst, why they shouldn't be frightened. And after a good, solid half-hour ego search with Helen, they're really frightened. Anyway, we've had an average of 4 treasures a year for the last few years. We've been running in bad luck, but it'll change, I said, just as reassuringly as I knew how. I used to heckle her about the help problem, but I learned that was not necessarily wise. Dinner was ready a little later, and with an arm around my wife and an arm around my son, I advanced toward the dining room. I felt at that moment safe, secure, all the nice things. Supper was on the table, creamed spinach, mashed potatoes, gravy, and pot roast. Terrific. Except I don't like pot roast, since I'm a rare meat man. But creamed spinach I have a lech for, so all in all, a more than edible spread was set across the tablecloth. We sat. Helen served the meat, the rest we passed. My pot roast slice was not terribly moist, but the gravy could compensate. Helen rang. Angelica appeared. Maybe 20 or 18, swarthy, slow-moving. Angelica, Helen began, this is Mr. Goldman. I smiled and said hi and waved a fork. She nodded back. Angelica, this is not meant to be construed as criticism, since what happened is all my fault, but in the future we must both try very hard to remember that Mr. Goldman likes his roast beef rare. This was roast beef? I said. Helen shot me a look. Now, Angelica, there is no problem, and I should have told you more than once about Mr. Goldman's preferences, but next time we have boned rib roast, let's all do our best to make the middle pink, shall we? Angelica backed into the kitchen. Another treasure down the tubes. Remember now, we all 3 started this meal happy. 2 of us are left in that state, Helen clearly being distraught. Jason was piling the mashed potatoes on his plate with a practiced and steady motion. I smiled at my kid. Hey, I tried, let's go a little easy, huh, fella? He splatted another fat spoonful onto his plate. Jason, they're just loaded, I said then. I'm really hungry, Dad, he said, not looking at me. Fill up on the meat then, why don't you? I said, eat all the meat you want, I won't say a word. I'm not eating nothing, Jason said, and he shoved his plate away and folded his arms and stared off into space. If I were a future salesperson, Helen said to me, or perhaps a teller in a bank, I could understand. But how can you have spent all these years married to a psychiatrist and talk like that? You're out of the dark ages, Willie. Helen, the boy is overweight. All I suggested was he might leave a few potatoes for the rest of the world and stuff on this lovely prime pot roast your treasure has whipped up for my triumphant return. Willie, I don't want to shock you, but Jason happens to have not only a very fine mind, but also exceptionally keen eyesight. When he looks at himself in the mirror, I assure you he knows he is not slender. That is because he does not choose, at this stage, to be slender. He's not that far from dating, Helen. What then? Jason is 10, darling, and not interested at this stage in girls. At this stage, he is interested in rocketry. What difference does a slight case of overweight make to a rocket lover? When he chooses to be slender, I assure you, he has both the intelligence and the willpower to become slender. Until that time, please, in my presence, do not frustrate the child. Sandy Starling in her bikini was dancing behind my eyes. I'm not eating, and that's it, Jason said then. Sweet child, Helen said to the kid, in that tone she reserves on this earth only for such moments. Be logical. If you do not eat your potatoes, you will be upset, and I will be upset, and your father, clearly, is already upset. If you do eat your potatoes, I shall be pleased, you will be pleased, your tummy will be pleased. We can do nothing about your father. You have it in your power to upset all or one, about whom, as I have already said, we can do nothing. Therefore, the conclusion should be clear. But I have faith in your ability to reach it yourself. Do what you will, Jason. He began to stuff it in. You're making a poof out of that kid, I said, only not loud enough for anybody but me and Sandy to hear. Then I took a deep, deep breath, because whenever I come home there's always trouble, which is because, Helen says, I bring tension with me. I always need inhuman proof that I've been missed, that I'm still needed, loved, etc. All I know is I hate being away, but coming home is the worst. There's never really much chance to go into, well, what's new since I'm gone, chit-chat, seeing that Helen and I talk every night anyway. I'll bet you're a whiz on that bike, I said then. Maybe we'll go for a ride this weekend. Jason looked up from his potatoes. I really loved the book, Dad. It was great. I was surprised that he said it, because naturally I was just starting to work my way into that subject matter. But then, as Helen's always saying, Jason ain't no dummy. Well, I'm glad, I said. And was I ever? Jason nodded. Maybe it's even the best I read in all my life. I nibbled away at my spinach. What was your favorite part? Chapter 1, The Bride, Jason said. That really surprised me. Not that Chapter 1 stinks or anything, but there's not that much that goes on compared with the incredible stuff later. Buttercup grows up, mostly, is all. How about the climb up the cliffs of insanity, I said then. That's in Chapter 5. Oh, great, Jason said. And that description of Prince Humperdinck's Zoo of Death? That's in the 2nd chapter. Even greater, Jason said. What knocked me out about it, I said, was that it's this very short little passage on the Zoo of Death, but yet somehow you just know it's going to figure in later. Did you get that same feeling? Mm-hmm, Jason nodded. Great. By then I knew he hadn't read it. He tried to read it, Helen cut in. He did read the 1st chapter. Chapter 2 was impossible for him, so when he'd made a sufficient and reasonable attempt, I told him to stop. Different people have different tastes. I told him you'd understand, Willie. Of course I understood. I felt just so deserted, though. I didn't like it, Dad. I wanted to. I smiled at him. How could he not like it? Passion, duels, miracles, giants, true love. You're not eating the spinach either? Helen asked. I got up. Time change. I'm not hungry. She didn't say anything until she heard me open the front door. Where are you going? She called then. If I'd known, I would have answered. I wandered through December. No top coat. I wasn't aware of being cold, though. All I knew was I was 40 years old, and I didn't mean to be here when I was 40, locked with this genius shrink wife and this balloon son. It must have been 9 o'clock when I was sitting in the middle of Central Park, alone. No one near me, no other bench occupied. That was when I heard the rustling in the bushes. It stopped. Then again, very soft, nearer. I whirled, screaming, "Don't you bug me!" and whatever it was, friend, foe, imagination, fled. I could hear the running, and I realized something. Right then, at that moment, I was dangerous. Then it got cold. I went home. Helen was going over some notes in bed. Ordinarily, she would come out with something about me being a bit elderly for acts of juvenile behavior. But there must have been danger clinging to me still. I could see it in her smart eyes. He did try, she said finally. I never thought he didn't, I answered. Where's the book? The library, I think. I turned, started out. Can I get you anything? I said no. Then I went to the library, closed myself in, hunted out The Princess Bride. It was in pretty good shape. I realized as I checked the binding, which is when I saw it was published by my publishing house, Harcourt Brace Jovanovich. This was before that. They weren't even Harcourt Brace and World yet, just plain old Harcourt Brace, period. I flicked to the title page, which was funny, since I'd never done that before. It was always my father who'd done the handling. I had to laugh when I saw the real title, because right there it said, The Princess Bride, S. Morgenstern's classic tale of true love and high adventure. You had to admire a guy who called his own new book a classic before it was published and anyone else had a chance to read it. Maybe he figured if he didn't do it, nobody would. Or maybe he was just trying to give the reviewers a helping hand. I don't know. I skimmed the first chapter, and it was pretty much exactly as I remembered. Then I turned to the second chapter, the one about Prince Humperdinck, and the little, kind of tantalizing description of the Zoo of Death. And that's when I began to realize the problem. Not that the description wasn't there, it was, and again, pretty much as I remembered it. But before you got to it, there were maybe 60 pages of text dealing with Prince Humperdinck's ancestry and how his family got control of Florin, and this wedding, and that child begatting this one over there, and who then married somebody else. And then I skipped to the third chapter, the courtship. And that was all about the history of Gilder and how that country reached its place in the world. The more I flipped on, the more I knew Morgenstern wasn't writing any children's book. He was writing a kind of satiric history of his country and the decline of the monarchy in Western civilization. But my father only read me the action stuff, the good parts. He never bothered with the serious side at all. About 2 a.m, I called Hiram in Martha's Vineyard. Hiram Hayden's been my editor for a dozen years, ever since Soldier in the Rain, and we've been through a lot together, but never any phone calls at 2 a.m. To this day, I know he doesn't understand why I couldn't wait till maybe breakfast. "You're sure you're all right, Bill?" he kept saying. "Hey, Hiram," I began after about 6 rings. "Listen, you guys published a book just after World War I. Do you think it might be a good idea for me to abridge it and we republish it now?" "You're sure you're all right, Bill?" "Fine, absolutely. And see, I'd just use the good parts. I'd kind of bridge where there were skips in the narrative and leave the good parts alone. What do you think?" "Bill, it's 2 a.m. up here. Are you still in California?" I acted like I was all shocked and surprised, so he wouldn't think I was a nut. "I'm sorry, Hiram. My God, what an idiot. It's only 11 o'clock in Beverly Hills. Do you think you could ask Mr. Jovanovich, though?" "You mean now?" "Tomorrow or the next day. No big deal." "I'll ask him anything, only I'm not quite sure I'm getting an accurate reading on exactly what you want. You're sure you're all right, Bill?" "I'll be in New York tomorrow. Call you then about the specifics, okay?" "Could you make it a little earlier in the business day, Bill?" I laughed and we hung up, and I called Zig in California. Everett Ziegler has been my movie agent for maybe 8 years. He did the Butch Cassidy deal for me, and I woke him up too. "Hey, Zig, could you get me a postponement on the Stepford Wives? There's this other thing that's come up. You're contracted to start now. How long a postponement?" "I can't say for sure. I've never done an abridgment before. Just tell me what you think they'd do." "I think if it's a long postponement, they'd threaten to sue and you'd end up losing the job." It came out pretty much as he said. They threatened to sue, and I almost lost the job and some money and didn't make any friends in the industry, as those of us in showbiz call movies. But the abridgment got done, and you hold it in your hands. The good parts version. Why did I go through all that? Helen pressured me greatly to think about an answer. She felt it was important. Not that she know necessarily, but that I know. "Because you acted crackers, Willie boy," she said. "You had me truly scared." "So why?" "I never was worth beans at self-scrutiny. Everything I write is impulse. This feels right, that sounds wrong, like that. I can't analyze, not my own actions anyway. I know I don't expect this to change anybody else's life the way it altered mine. But take the title words, true love and high adventure. I believed in that once. I thought my life was going to follow that path. Prayed that it would. Obviously it didn't, but I don't think there's high adventure left anymore. Nobody takes out a sword nowadays and cries, 'Hello, my name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die.' And true love you can forget about too. I don't know if I love anything truly anymore beyond the porterhouse at Peter Luger's and the cheese enchilada at El Parador's. Sorry about that, Helen. Anyway, here's the good parts version. S. Morgenstern wrote it, and my father read it to me, and now I give it to you. What you do with it will be of more than passing interest to us all. New York City, December 1972. So that's the end of the not chapter, I guess. It doesn't say that it's an introduction. It just says, it just starts. Because there is an introduction, which we already read. But I do like the kind of the connection that he has with his father. I really like the way that the father is written. His lines being so short and pointed. It really kind of solidifies the character, I think. Hi, Turtussle! Hold on, I have to go back to my screen so that I don't get confused. Here we go. How are you, Turtussle? Have you been lurking? How's things? Did everybody enjoy that? Because I'm enjoying the book, but I don't know if everybody else is. I just discovered that you stream. Nice. Well, you know, Turtussle, this is only my second stream, so I'm still figuring things out. And you just got here. So what I've been doing, my first stream was just sort of an introduction of like, hi, who am I? I'm this person who struggles with technology and is trying to figure out how streaming works. And then for this stream, I've decided I'm going to do a book club. And we're reading The Princess Bride. We got through the introduction for the 25th anniversary of the book. And then we went into, I guess, what's also an introduction for like the original of the book, but it's not labeled as an introduction. So I don't know if it's actually like the first part of the book or the prologue or something. It's just not labeled. It's just a whole bunch of words. But I like it so far. I think it's really kind of interesting, the sort of the framing of this fictional thing that he decided to abridge, but the original doesn't exist. He created that as well. Or at least that's the way that I'm interpreting it, and that's the way that I'm pretty sure I've heard people like analyze it. But I've not actually read the entire book yet, so we're gonna do that together on stream. So that's what this stream is about. I also, at some point in the future, would like to do kind of like a world building stream, because I write as well, and that's one of the things that I want to do with this book stream. Somebody said that if you want to be a good writer, you also need to be a good reader. And I have not read in a long time, so I decided, let's try and force myself to do it by doing it in front of people. So that'll be an interesting journey. But I want to read books that I think will give me things to talk about as far as plot devices and character arcs and just writing techniques in general. I like the way that the characters in this book, at least so far, have been written in a way that I can really tell who is talking. Each person has a different voice in the writing, and I really like that comes through, because that makes it so much easier when trying to read it out loud. And I hope I did that justice, because I'm not, I'm a little bit of an actor, but I'm not really, I wouldn't say that I'm a voice actor. And that's another reason that I want to stream, because I want to try to strengthen my voice and try to just get more comfortable with vocal range and stuff like that, and different character voices and stuff and things. So that's me in a nutshell, I guess. Sounds like a grand idea for sure. We'll see how it goes. Hopefully, I do notice that after like an hour and a half or 2 hours, I start to feel it. So hopefully that I'll eventually get used to it a little bit more, and it won't feel so constricting in my voice. Learn and practice a bunch of new skills at once. Yeah. I'm basically learning like how a broadcasting software works. I'm learning how computers work. Hopefully my audio and video are synced up because last week they did not. So I have to, if that happens again, then I have to figure out how to troubleshoot those things as well. Um, in addition to strengthening my voice and my breath work and getting comfortable with looking into the camera, because when whenever I've been in front of a camera for like acting purposes, it's always like you look off camera, you don't look directly into the camera. So that's a new that's a new skill for me to learn, is like how to look directly into the camera, and learning about lights, and even just learning mirror stuff, like chat is that way. I have to learn how to like mirror myself. It's going to be an interesting journey and experience. So hopefully I will get at least one new skill out of it, maybe more. While we're talking about learning new skills, I think I am going to try and learn how to send people off on a raid. So I'm going to do this again next week, 8 p.m. Eastern. At some point in the future, I will try and figure out if 8 p.m. is a good time. Maybe there will be other times that are better during the week, but I'm still figuring things out. So we're going to stick with 8 p.m. until I get more feedback, I guess. But anyway, thanks for hanging out with me. Thanks for listening to the read. And hopefully I will see everybody again next week. Bye. Hi there. Thanks for joining our book club. If you'd like to join the conversation, I would love it if you would leave us a comment. And if you'd like to see more, check out the playlist.